G'day to all my friends and family, and welcome to Jim's 5am Club. I'm just down here at the Cypress Club. It's the night that I come for choir practice, and I've come a little bit early because Paula has a meeting with the committee, the choir committee here. So I've got about an hour to spare. So what I thought I'd do is I'd run a 5am vlog and just go through a book summary. Not quite the most spectacular view in the world, but I guess it's probably more interesting than watching my face whilst I'm talking. So what I want to do today is I want to take you through a book entitled How to Read a Book by Mortimer Adler. And this book summary is an old one. It's a book that was written in the 40s. So some old wisdom that we're tapping into today. And I guess it's probably a timely thing to do because with the internet, with social media, the art of reading is slowly being lost because instead of people delving and reading deeply into books and using their creative thinking, they're being, I guess, manipulated through social media, where we do a lot more shallow reading, and there's a lot of misinformation out there, and we don't get a full picture, a full contextual connection with the material being presented. And it's good to just benchmark and baseline against what other people have come up with. So the author here in his book talks about a few things, but one of the things that he mentions is that true freedom is impossible without a mind made free by discipline. So true freedom is impossible without a mind made free by discipline. And I've got to tell you, one thing for sure and for certain is that reading can create a disciplined mind, because reading requires focus. Reading requires people to start, to continue, and to try and comprehend what they're reading and making the most of it. So a lot of discipline is required in order to read and to stay focused. And I remember as a young man at school reading my first novel, and I still remember it today. It was called The Merry-Go-Round in the Sea by Randolph Stow, an Australian author. And as I say, I can still remember it because I focused on it, and I think I tried reading. And when I first sat down, I only read about 1 or 2 pages, and I said to myself, "There's absolutely no way that I'll be able to read this whole book at 1 or 2 pages a night, because it'll take me over a year, to complete it." Because I did find it really, really difficult to focus. And then after that, I read 3 pages and 4 pages, and then what I'd try and do is set myself a target of reading 10, 20, and even 30 pages at a sitting, which once again requires discipline. But I was able to get through my first book. And interestingly enough, whilst we're on this topic, not too many people ever get to read a book from beginning to end, and almost every book is never completed. So to pick up a book and read it from cover to cover is in itself a major effort, and something that we should all be pushing ourselves to do on a regular basis, because you go on a journey, you're able to relax, you're able to switch off from your thoughts, your problems, your anxieties, and basically go on a journey and go on an expedition where you can just forget, as I said before, you can forget about the troubles of the world. So the author here talks a little bit more technically about how to go about reading a book, and he talks about first doing an inspectional read every time you want to pick up a new book. And an inspectional read is basically where you use your curiosity. You pick up the book, you have a look at the cover, you skim a few of the paragraphs, and you look at the editor's blurb, you look at the table of contents, and you try and figure out in your own mind, what is this book about and what kind of book is it? And then what you do is you flip through a few pages and skim read a couple of paragraphs and try and get a feel for the style of the author and whether or not it's something that would interest you and something that you'd like to read. So by just reading the table of contents in a technical book, it is a good start, because what it does is it allows you to add some hooks to your brain through using your curiosity, and you can use that to then start to comprehend and understand and piece together what you're reading. And the author then goes on to say that once you start reading the book and you start getting into it, try and find the main theme. So what's this book all about? What's the main message of the author? And then to also try and understand what's the author's intention by analysing the book in a little bit more detail. So there is an art to reading, according to this author, and as I said, this art is slowly being lost. But I guess stumbling upon this book summary, we're able to learn a little bit more about it and to maybe pick up some pointers that may be able to help us gain a little bit more appreciation of the books, the texts, and the material that we have available to us, which is not necessarily digital, but something which is a little bit more substantial and something that can help us develop our mind, develop our insight, and develop our analytical thinking. Because analytical reading, analytical thinking is an important thing to have, and it can be learned through delving and getting stuck into reading, but reading of books which have, as we said before, substance and a depth that will help us expand our thinking and allow us to explore themes that we wouldn't normally touch on in our day-to-day interactions. So what I have done in the past is I've had a couple of books that I've read cover to cover, and I went through a stage when I was in my 30s, when I was a young executive working at IBM and Telstra, where I had a deep thirst for learning. I've always had a thirst for learning, and I would read 1 or 2 books a week. So I'd get on the bus in the morning, so I'd read for an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening on the way home, and possibly later on before I went to bed I'd probably knock off another hour, so I'd be doing 2 or 3 hours of focused reading a day, which I found very powerful. But because I was reading self-help books like Anthony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within, or the book The 48 Laws of Power, or Steve Covey's books, Jim Rohn's books, what I would do is I would highlight the book as I was reading it. I'd highlight the stuff that really stood out and which I really liked, and with a fine-tipped biro, I'd write in the margins there and take notes to explore a little bit more deeply what the book was all about. And that really worked for me. Even today, when I pick up a book and have a look at it, I can see the notes that I took back then, and those notes, even today, are very, very meaningful and help me remember the detail that I learnt when I read the book all those years ago. So the last point on this book is that when we're reading, we need to be asking questions about the book and critically thinking about the importance and the logic of the argument within the book. Because just because somebody's written a book doesn't mean that what the author has written about is valid, is logical, is rational, and passes the pub test or the sniff test. Many people write books in order to put a tick in a box to satisfy their ego and to leave a legacy. But not everything that everybody writes about is correct, is right, is reasonable, and there's a lot of, bullshit, I guess you could possibly describe it as, being published out there and disseminated. You can look at the internet these days and just see how much misinformation is being pushed out there by people who have created their own poetic license to publish whatever they want, to forward and support whichever conspiracy theory they tap into, and to cause a lot of confusion amongst their friends and families. But you've got to ask yourself, when you read whatever you read, is it true? And ask yourself the question, so what? And those two questions will give you a lot to think about and to contemplate and to mull over. And whenever we're reading, we should always be looking for contradictory statements. My wife Paula always used to say that when people were arguing and saying things, she used to say that fascis gadi fascis, which I guess in English means that you're contradicting yourself. A lot of people have opinions and put forward thoughts without thinking deeply about them, trying to prove a point, but they're actually in many ways just disproving their own point. And this can be revealed by a deeper reading of the books and the material that is put out there. And the last point from this book is that we try and need to be objective with the material that we read and the opinions that we form. So I think I'll leave it there for today. So once again, another opportunity to crank out a Jim's 5am club. This is my eighth vlog for today, and each vlog is about 20 minutes, so 160 minutes is almost 3 hours of creative talking. I'm well on my way to getting to my 1000th vlog. I just can't believe it, but I'm looking forward to getting to my 1000th. And as I've said to a number of people, when I get to my 1000th, I think then and only then I will have learnt the art of vlogging, and then from that point on I'll be able to fine-tune and revise my style to produce material which is a little bit more interesting, a little bit more structured and funny and appealing. But we'll see how we go. As Emmanuel Angelicus told me the other day, the project that I've embarked on is a very difficult one. And a year into it, I'm starting to realise it. And I always say to myself, if I knew it was going to be so challenging from the very beginning, and it would need so much effort, so much consistent effort, I may have been in two minds whether or not to start it or not. Because I upload all my videos to YouTube, and the vast majority of my material, even though I've made it public, has not been viewed, which is disheartening to say the least. And it's hard to tell how many views you get, because on social media, even though it'll say that you've had 10 or 20 views, you don't know if people have viewed it from the beginning to the end, and whether or not they've liked it or not, because as I say, I get very, very little feedback on social media. Very, very few people will give me a thumbs up, and the ones that do give me the thumbs up and the like are very, very few indeed. So I might have maybe, I guess, half a dozen people who like my material on a regular basis. But as I say, in terms of feedback, I get very, very little feedback. But I guess all creative people are the same. If I asked most people in the creative fields, I guess their response would be the same. You get the odd person who may say, well done. But in terms of getting a critical mass and a critical following, it's very, very difficult. And I guess, you need to be a certain age and have a certain level of sex appeal to have the mass following. I often say to myself, and I often laugh, that there are people out there who put out vlogs on recipes and food that they're cooking, and they get thousands and thousands of followers. Or other people who will just get dressed up and go out on a balcony and spin around and get hundreds of likes and many, many comments. But when you get somebody who does a very, very serious project, which potentially can add significant value and teach a lot of information to people who are curious, and you get very, very few viewings and very, very few return feedbacks or posts and feedbacks, then you scratch your head and you say, well, what is happening in this world? Is social media just a platform to engage in a veneer thin connection, or is it something that we can leverage to get a more deeper connection where we can learn and grow, develop, and go on a journey together where we can explore life, explore the world, and enable us to grow, develop, and become better versions of ourselves. Anyway, I think I've said enough for today. So let's finish off with a positive affirmation. I'm alive, I am well, and I feel absolutely great. To my friends and family, stay connected, stay relevant, stay reasonable. And I can't wait to come to you again, because what I do, I enjoy doing. And if I didn't enjoy doing it, then I would have finished a long, long time ago. So tomorrow morning, 5 o'clock, I'll come to you from a different location with a different message, a message of empowerment, so that we can be the wind beneath our wings, so that we can live, learn, and pass it on. And hopefully use these life hacks to enable us to become better versions of ourselves. Anyway, yassas, take care, and we'll chat again later. Bye for now.